Many people think of stress as a simple problem. In reality, however, stress is complex and often misunderstood. To learn how job stress truly works, we first must define it and then describe the process by which it develops. Stress has been defined in many ways, but most definitions say that stress is caused by a stimulus, that the stimulus can be either physical or psychological, and that the individual responds to the stimulus in some way. Therefore, we define stress as a person's adaptive response to a stimulus that places excessive physiological or physical demands on him or her. Given the underlying complexities of this definition, we need to examine its components carefully. First is the notion of adaptation. People may adapt to stress in many of several ways. Second is the role of the stimulus, called the stressor. Third, stressors can be either physiological or physical. And finally, the demands of the stressors that placed on the individual must be excessive for the stress to actually result. Much of what we know about stress today can be traced to the pioneering work of Hans Selye. This figure offers a graphical representation of the General Adaptation Syndrome, or GAS. According to this model, each of us have a normal level of resistance to stressful events. Some of us can tolerate a great deal of stress and others much less, but we all have a threshold at which stress affects us. The GAS begins when a person first encounters a stressor. The first stage is called alarm. At this point, a person may feel some degree of panic and begin to wonder how to cope. The individual may also have to resolve a fight or flight question. Can I deal with this, or should I run away? If the stressor is too extreme, the person may simply be unable to cope with it. In most cases, however, the individual gathers his or her strength, either physical or emotional, and begins to resist the negative effects of the stressor. Often, the resistance phase ends the GAS. On the other hand, prolonged exposure to the stressor without resolution may bring on the third phase of the GAS, which is exhaustion. At this stage, the person literally gives up and can no longer fight the stressor. Selye also pointed out that the sources of stress need not all be bad. Let's take a look. For example, receiving a bonus and then having to decide what to do with the money can be stressful. So, getting a promotion, making a speech as part of winning a major award, getting married, or other similar good things can also be stressors. Of course, there's also a negative side to stress. Called distress, this is what most people think of when they hear the word stress. Excessive pressure, unreasonable demands on our time, and bad news all fall into this category. Let's take a look at the common causes of stress. Many things cause stress. Stress can be categorized into two broad general groups: organizational stressors and life stressors. It also has three categories of stress consequences: individual consequences, organizational consequences, and burnout. Organizational stressors are various factors in the workplace that can cause stress. Four general sets of organizational stressors are task demands, physical demands, role demands, and interpersonal demands. Stress can have a number of consequences. If the stress is positive, then the result might be more energy, enthusiasm, or motivation. Of more concern, of course, are the negative consequences of stress. The individual consequences of stress are the outcomes that mainly affect the individual. Stress may produce behavioral, psychological, and medical consequences. Any of the individual consequences just discussed can also affect the organization. Other results of stress have even more direct consequences for organization. These include declines in performance, withdrawal, and negative changes in attitudes. Burnout, another consequence of stress, has clear implications for both people and organizations. Burnout is the general feeling of exhaustion that develops when a person simultaneously experiences too much pressure and has too few sources of satisfaction. People with high aspirations and strong motivation to get things done are prime candidates for burnout under certain conditions. Given that stress is widespread and so potentially disruptive to organizations, it follows that people and organizations should be concerned about how to manage it more effectively. And in fact, they are. Many strategies have been developed to help managers with stress in the workplace. Some for individuals and others are geared towards the organization.